Meet Esther, Scott and Brian. Esther is 17 and has recently left school. As she enters the jobs market, there are fewer young people working than at any time in the last 2 decades. 22-year-old Scott is a graduate. Despite leaving university with a good degree, he's facing stiff competition. Brian Adams is 55 and long-term unemployed. Esther, Scott and Brian are just 3 of the 2.49 million people in Britain today who are unemployed. James Caan is one of the UK's most prominent entrepreneurs. Having made his name in the recruitment industry, he's agreed to meet each of our job seekers.
I'd like to meet each person and try to understand where the problem lies. Once I understand the problem, then we can find a solution that I think will address their challenges.
Using his 35 years' experience as an employer, James will assess each person and will then set out a plan of action to help them in their pursuit of a job. The first person to meet James Caan is 55-year-old Londoner Brian Adams.
Brian.
Hi, James.
Very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Take a seat,
Thank
Brian.
you.
Just tell me a little bit about your background.
I'm Brian, I'm over 50 and I'm unemployed.
Brian was made redundant from his facilities role in March 2009. He's been unemployed ever since.
Initially, it didn't really affect us because we had money, we had savings, we had my redundancy as well. But as time goes on and you're not getting any replies from jobs, you know you're doing something wrong, but there's not really that many people out there to help you.
Back in his office, James Caan is trying to get to the heart of the problem.
Just to remind me again, Brian, how many CVs have you sent out?
Oh, about 1,000.
1,000 CVs?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, there's a sense of desperation that's saying, I've got to get a job, I've got to get a job.
Yes.
And I think what happens is that comes through the interview.
Right.
One of my advices to you would be, is try and develop some chemistry with the person that's interviewing you so they can imagine you working in the organisation.
Yeah.
At the moment, I don't think your personality is coming through at the interview. Engage with me in a dialogue, Brian. Chat me up.
James is sensing a lack of confidence in Brian, so he tries a different approach.
Brian, tell me a bit about your hobbies.
Gardening.
When you say gardening, what do you mean by that?
It's just a hobby. We're not allowed to have real gardens where we live because it's council houses. And every year they have a competition and I've won 4 or 5
Have
awards.
You really?
Yeah, yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
If you've got something like that you're quite passionate about, there are a lot of people who are kind of independent, self-employed, who do gardening. At least it will be something you like. Could be your new career, Brian.
Could be, yes. Thank you very much for that. Thank you very much.
James is worried about Brian's confidence and has suggested self-employment as a possible option. We'll catch up with Brian later. Next in the office, it's graduate Scott.
Scott, please take a seat.
Oh, thank you. I'm Scott, I'm a graduate and I'm unemployed. I originally felt like you would literally go to university, you go and get your degree, and then the minute that you had graduated, walk into a job and it's all set.
In James Caan's office, the entrepreneur is trying to identify the problem.
What would be the job titles that you're going for? Give me 3 job titles in social media.
3 job titles in social media. I think sort of 3 jobs in social media. I can only think of responsibilities rather than specific titles.
The question is, if you don't even know what the job titles are, then how are you applying for jobs in that space? You're a graduate, you've got a 2-1 degree, you're a bright guy. You need to be presenting yourself to me as the best candidate for the job. And for me, you kind of fell at the first hurdle. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you very much.
Fantastic.
James reckons Scott is suffering from a lack of focus. We'll find out shortly what he has planned for Scott. But the final person to meet James Caan is school leaver Esther.
Please take a seat. Can you just tell me a bit about your background?
I'm Esther, I'm a school leaver and I'm unemployed.
I think it's soul-destroying for school leavers. They put all the work in at school. I think they have all these expectations. They come out of school and then it's kind of like full stop.
I think one of the biggest problems, I think, when you're young is everybody says, but you've got no experience, how do you add any value?
Yeah.
Your IT skills and your typing, I think, is an asset. I think what you've got to be able to do is present yourself as somebody who can walk in and make a difference now. What about doing a job as a junior PA?
I would really enjoy that.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. What I'll do is I'll think about a plan that I can put for you to give you a focus of what you need to do that will significantly and substantially improve your chances.
Thank you.
Lovely meeting you, Esther.
A week later, and James Caan has set up meetings for each of our job seekers.
Esther needs to sort out her CV. Simon Dolan is a very straight-talking entrepreneur. Scott's lacking some direction and focus. Louise Mowbray is a personal brand coach who I think will be able to help Scott in developing his own personal brand, which will enable him to present himself far more eloquently. Brian is suffering from a lack of confidence. Emma Harrison is an expert on unemployment advice.
It is so highly competitive that you really need to be able to stand out. People need to remember you, and you have to have a very clear idea of what purpose or benefit you're able to bring to the organisation, and make sure that that's what they're looking for.
Scott has worked before, and his old employers have been asked to give their honest opinions on his strengths and weaknesses.
Scott's best qualities, as far as I'm concerned, are his enthusiasm, his intelligence.
Scott was brilliant to work with, but the main things I'd say would be probably more commitment, better timekeeping and time management, and probably more focus on the job that he's doing.
Timekeeping.
Yeah.
And looking more professional, or being more professional. You've got the skills, okay? You don't need to learn anything new. It just apply the self-discipline. Are you committed to doing that?
Yeah, certainly, yeah.
100%?
Yes. Yeah.
Great stuff.
Work experience over for Esther, and now the writing's on the wall for her CV.
What's the main thing that strikes you on here? So if we've got this second line down, have a look there. Your one.
Employers hate spelling mistakes, and it's a surefire way of making sure yours ends up in the bin.
When school leavers send in their CVs, what they tend to do is to put far too much emphasis on their schooling and qualifications. Employers are not that interested. They're going to buy you for your skills. Graduate CVs make the same mistakes over and over again. They use cliched language, so everyone says, I'm a team player, I'm a self-starter, and if you use the same language as everyone else, all that shows is that you are exactly the same. People who are over 50 sometimes need some particular help with their CV in terms of getting the right message across. The important thing is to show that you are active, physically active, but also active in your own learning, so keeping your skills up to date and being familiar with modern software and technology.
Meanwhile, Emma Harrison has arranged for Brian to do some volunteering. Because of his passion for horticulture, Emma's chosen an inner-city garden to let his green fingers run wild.
If you're really fed up and you're over 50, no one wants you, you've lost your sense of purpose, go out and volunteer. And you know what? The employer will love it. I really worry that someone over the age of 50 gives up because they hear that there's no jobs. Self-esteem and confidence, that's the biggest problem.
Scott is also taking positive action towards his future. Since we started filming, he's secured an internship in central London, something he had applied for before we started shooting with him.
I'm really proud to see Scott getting his internship. I think this will go a long way to help him in the future, because that confidence building, I think, will make all the difference.
And as for Brian, well, Emma set up an interview for a maintenance position at a nearby hotel. It's not getting the interviews that's been Brian's problem. It's been his confidence in them. So how does he feel it went?
I'm quite elated at the moment. I'm like buzzing at the moment, so I didn't think I'd ever work again at my age. No, I didn't. But I think, yeah, I'm in with a chance here.
It's great to see that Brian's confidence is really starting to come through. That's exactly what I think an employer wants to see. We started this journey with our 3 people thinking that they were unemployable. But in fact, I believe there's a job out there for everybody. I think what this has demonstrated is by applying yourself, by putting those skills right at the top and demonstrating who you really are, allowing your passion to come through, I think gives you the opportunity to get that job you really want. But I'm not saying it's easy. Getting a job is a job in itself. You just got to get out there and make it happen.